Hello, everybody. First of all, I can't believe I'm doing this on a Sunday. Sunday is usually the day of rest. I try not to do any work aside from About Life with myself and Pastor Dave. However, it's been brought to my attention that Eric Bischoff made some comments pertaining to Bash at the Beach on a WWE program. First of all, I can't believe for the life of me that 15 years after the fact, people are still talking about this incident. And now the WWE is talking about it to monetize off of it and to make money off of it. But I'll be honest with you. Whether it's Sunday, Saturday, a week from Tuesday, Christmas, or Thanksgiving, if somebody calls BS on me, you can bet that I'm going to show up. And here I am. Because I don't like calling anybody a liar, and I'm not going to call Eric Bischoff a liar. That's not what I'm going to do. But what I'm going to say is Eric Bischoff has obviously forgotten what the truth is. Eric Bischoff has obviously forgotten what happened that day back in 1999. Now, listen, I'm not going to rehash the entire day. I'm not going to give a blow-by-blow description. I did that in my book, How WCW Killed Vince Russo. You can read all about it. I'm not going through the whole day. I've done that before. I don't want to do it again. I'm only here because I need to defend myself. And I'm not going to let somebody like Bischoff just get away with calling me a BS artist, which is not the truth. Because the fact is, there are so many holes in Eric's story. It's absolutely ridiculous. And there are four things that I really want to talk about today. And then I'm going to move on. If Eric wants to comment on these four things, go right ahead and knock yourself out. First of all, I want everybody to go back and look at Eric's comments and look at the hate and disdain in his face for Vince Russo. When he says the name Vince Russo, literally you can feel hatred come through the computer screen. From the first day I met Eric Bischoff never liked me. Why? Quite frankly, because I replaced him at WCW. And, he wanted the job back. I was there. He did not like me from the get-go. Brad Siegel put the both of us to work together, hoping it would work, and it didn't work. So from day one, Eric Bischoff did not like me. Okay. On top of that, Hulk Hogan did not like me. Hulk Hogan did not trust me. Hulk Hogan has already made the comments that if you were over 40, at the WCW, you were going to be out of a job. All these things have been said. My point is these two did not like me. And you need to understand that to understand how what Eric is saying is absolute nonsense. Okay. Eric claims that day there was a four-way conversation between myself, him, Hulk Hogan, and Brad Siegel. Brad Siegel was the head of TBS and TNT. Eric says during that conversation that he laid out a story, Russo laid out a story, Brad Siegel voted for Eric Bischoff's story, and then basically Vince Russo went into business for himself. Now, just imagine this. With as much as Bischoff hated me and as much as Hogan hated me, imagine if I went into business for myself and I told Jeff Jarrett to lay down on a live pay-per-view and in front of the entire world, Vince Russo showed up Hulk Hogan. But not only did I show him up in front of the entire world, I showed him up in front of the entire locker room. Now, if this were a shoot, do you not think that immediately following the laydown, I would have been confronted by a very upset Hulk Hogan and a very upset Eric Bischoff? I mean, I just went into business for myself and showed them up in front of the entire world, in front of the entire locker room. But yet, after the incident, there was no confrontation. They didn't come looking for me. There was no yelling. There was no hitting. Literally, Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan took their ball and left the building. Why? Because that was part of the script. Because that's what was all discussed beforehand. It was laid out that In the story, if I actually told Jeff Jarrett to lay down, you two would kill me if that were a shoot. Hogan and Bischoff would absolutely kill me. Therefore, they had to leave the building. Because if they didn't leave the building, they would have had to kill me in front of the boys. So that's how it was written. Jarrett lays down. Hogan, Bischoff leave the building. Again, if I went into business for myself and they had no knowledge of this, with the hatred they had towards Vince Russo and the egos both of these men have, do you really not think there wouldn't have been some kind of a confrontation? There was no confrontation because the story was discussed amongst all of us. And that is why Eric and Hulk peacefully left the building. Now, let's talk about hole number 2. According to Eric, Brad Siegel, who ran TBS and TNT, championed his story and agreed to do his story. We all agreed on that. Then Russo went into business for himself. Now, can you imagine if the head of TBS and the head of TNT told Vince Russo to do something and Vince Russo went into business for himself? Can you imagine the ramifications? But yet again, no ramifications. Apparently, I went against the word and the orders of Brad Siegel, the head of TNT and TBS, but there were no ramifications. My job continued on with no problem. Can you even fathom that? The head of 2 networks, me going into business for myself without there being any ramifications? Why? Why is that not the truth? Because it didn't happen. That's why it's not the truth. But anyway, let's talk about the third thing. And let's keep it business, because the third thing is, Eric made the claim how, from a legality standpoint, Vince Russo cost WCW thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that affected everybody. Okay. Let me tell you exactly what happened. Hogan sued me for defamation of character, claiming that he knew nothing about the promo. It went to a judge. A judge basically said, wait a minute, this took place in a wrestling ring on a show, and he called you by your character's name, Hulk Hogan? The first judge threw it out of court and said it was ridiculous. Okay. Hulk Hogan appealed it a second time. It went to a second judge. A second judge looked at it and said, wait a minute. He cut this promo on you inside of a wrestling ring on a wrestling show by your wrestling name. A second judge threw out the lawsuit. The defamation of character lawsuit was thrown out the window. That's on record. Anybody could check it out. How Eric, in his mind, parlays that into Vince Russo costing the WCW millions and millions and millions of dollars on a lawsuit that was thrown out twice because 2 judges found it to be frivolous, I have absolutely no idea. But here's the fourth thing. And this is where Eric decided to make it personal by basically saying that, some of Vince Russo's storylines make me look like Steven Spielberg. Again, I don't go there. I never bring things up like this, but I'll tell you what, like I said the first time, I'll say it a second time. You attack me, you attack my character, you attack my legacy, you attack my living, you attack my credentials. Well, I'm going to have an answer for you. And here's the answer. Let's go back to history. And let's see when NWO came into play and WCW started kicking the backside of the WWE week after week after week after week. All of a sudden, Vince McMahon handpicks a man by the name of Vince Russo to help him with the creative of the company. At that point, Vince McMahon and Vince Russo side by side start working on the television. Week by week by week, we're in the office busting our backsides. Slowly but surely, we start turning that tide. Within a matter of months, WWE starts gaining the upper hand on WCW to the point of now kicking WCW's ass and Eric Bischoff being out of a job. So when Eric makes the statement of, I made some bad, I did some bad things and I had some bad creative choices, but I look like Steven Spielberg compared to some of Vince Russo's creative. Well, Eric, I need to remind you, it was Vince Russo's creative that put you on the unemployment line. So before you take cheap shots at me, let's check the facts. Let's check the history. Let's see where you were prior to Vince Russo writing for the WWE and where you were once Vince Russo started writing for the WWE. Before you make an asinine comment like that and a cheap shot at that, because I've gone on here time and time again. So many people want me to say Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff were the cause of the downfall of TNA. Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff killed TNA. Everybody has wanted me to say that. And you know what, Eric? I haven't said that. I've taken the high road every time I mention you and Hulk when it comes to TNA. But now, for whatever reason, listen, maybe you're looking for a job at the WWE. Maybe you're bored these days. I don't know what it is. But now, for whatever reason, after all this time, you make the decision to go on their programming, call me a BS artist, and then attack my work. Well, I'll tell you, I'm not going to stand for that. And I'll give you the same invitation I give everybody else. Anytime you want to come on here and you want to debate me face-to-face, man-to-man, opposed to a WWE tape where you're getting paid and, quite frankly, probably looking for employment, just let me know, man. I'm right here. But you're not going to sit there and you're not going to call BS on me when I know what happened. It's documented what's happened. And if anybody wants to know the truth, they can go and find the truth. So that's all I have to say about this. And again, the fact that people are talking about this 15 years after the fact blows my freaking mind. My prayer and wish and hope is that something happens in wrestling now, right now, when it's needed the most, that people will be talking about it 15 years from now. That's my prayer. Thanks for joining me today.